About 4 months ago, I made a video on a 2 ETF portfolio that, in my opinion, would provide investors with a very powerful and effective investing strategy moving into 2026. This portfolio not only offers impressive growth potential, but also serves as an excellent source of dividend income and provides strong risk mitigation by minimizing volatility. And this ETF combo follows the very common growth and value combination, but with the extra twist of maximizing dividend income through the use of an active high-income covered call ETF. And in my opinion, covered call ETFs right now, especially with the shaky outlook we're seeing, can provide investors a perfect avenue to gain exposure to growth without taking on 100% of the risk. Value-focused dividend ETFs offer investors strong diversification and alternative market exposure. These ETFs are well positioned to benefit from rate cuts and provide a buffer against potential market rotations by steering away from heavy reliance on big tech. And I am very pleased to see how well this portfolio has performed so far relative to the S&P 500, while producing a lot of dividend income. Now, after that video, many of you guys commented other ETF alternatives. So today, I'm going to go over the combination that I provided, further analyze what factors could affect it moving into 2026. I'll also comment on the alternative combination that many of you guys have been curious about and give my opinion on it. Now, if you guys are enjoying this content and find it helpful, please do me a little favor and hit that thumbs up button for the YouTube algorithm. It really helps out my channel and I really appreciate it. So thank you guys so much. Let's move on. The 2 ETF combination that I suggested was SCHD and JEPQ. And these are the Schwab US Dividend Equity ETF and the JP Morgan Nasdaq Equity Premium ETF. And for those that don't know, SCHD is a very prominent value-oriented dividend ETF that provides a dividend yield of around 3.6%. And JEPQ is a very powerful high-income covered call ETF with exposure to the Nasdaq 100 that sells covered calls on its underlying holdings to collect premium income, which is then distributed to investors in the form of a dividend. And the ETF has an average yield of around 10%. So these 2 ETFs together in a 50-50 split portfolio would provide an average annual yield of around 7%, which is fantastic. The 2 funds complement each other extremely well. On this chart, you can see that at times where SCHD is lagging the markets, JEPQ is balancing it out with strong upward momentum. And at times where we see a strong sell-off within big tech, SCHD is able to counter that volatility extremely well. But what's really important is the amount of volatility you experience. And because of the high income aspect, this lowers your portfolio's volatility or beta significantly, and that is the key. JEPQ is an ETF that I suggested at the end of 2025. And in my opinion, this ETF not only provides investors with fantastic exposure to big tech and the insane AI momentum, but also gives investors great risk mitigation with powerful dividend income, which is perfect in case we do see a sudden sell-off or a reversal into a different sector. And over the past year, the ETF has almost matched the total performance of the S&P 500 and the QQQ while minimizing volatility by more than 50%. And what's really special about the ETF is that it uses 3 very specific tactics to minimize the volatility of the Nasdaq 100. For one, because of its covered call strategy, the extra income it provides is able to cushion the downside extremely well. But also remember that the fund is using a very large chunk of its assets to sell calls against the Nasdaq 100, which means that the ETF only has 80% exposure to the markets, which adds an extra layer of risk mitigation. If you think about it, if the Nasdaq 100 falls by 10%, JEPQ would only suffer 8% in price depreciation, and the other 20% would cushion that even more through option income, bringing the total drawdown to maybe 6% or even 5%. That is what we saw in the bear market of 2022. We also saw JEPQ's ability to minimize drawdowns most recently in the sell-off of December. JEPQ only captured half of the QQQ's sell-off. But the third tactic is actually something that many investors aren't aware of, and that is that JEPQ has a slightly different portfolio relative to the Nasdaq 100. So the fund managers deploy an extra step when it comes to allocating assets for this fund, which at times give it a slight edge, especially when it comes to mitigating downside risk. Every single chart, graph, and comparison tool you're seeing in this video comes from Seeking Alpha. I use it every single day for ETF and stock analysis, and at this point, it is probably the most essential tool in my investing toolkit. Right now, they are running a Valentine's Day sale, and if you use my link down below, you will get $45 off their premium plan, which gives you access to all of these powerful tools. So if you want to take advantage of the sale, you'll find my link in the description and comment section down below. Now let's get back to the video. Now, there are concerns over big tech valuations, And that is exactly why JEPQ is my go-to right now over the QQQ and the S&P 500, strictly because I know that it will manage risk much better. And many of you guys did comment about another high income covered call ETF, which was SPYI, asking whether it could be an alternative to JEPQ. And my short answer is no. I'll explain why in just a second, so make sure you guys stick around until the end because I will be revealing a crucial dynamic with covered call ETFs that every investor should be aware of. Now, SCHD, in my opinion, was a fantastic fit for very strong value exposure. Given the fund's minimal tech exposure, it provided a great source of diversification. But the reason I chose this ETF is because, for one, it is very popular amongst dividend investors and it is very cheap, with an expense ratio of only 0.06%. And secondly, there is a specific stock selection criteria this fund uses that, in my opinion, gives it an edge moving into 2026. And that specific criteria is IAD yield. Yes, I have criticized this before, but given the changing interest rate environment, I felt that this criteria would now benefit SCHD. You see, when the Federal Reserve announced their plans on cutting interest rates, I gave SCHD a buy rating. As interest rates were expected to decline, many conservative investors were likely to shift their focus from fixed income assets like treasuries to dividend-paying stocks and ETFs. And this is because the interest income on fixed income investments will decrease relative to headline rates. So dividend ETFs will become their preferred source of income. This is a very common dynamic. And SCHD specifically screens for stocks with the highest dividend yield through this criteria. That is why the ETF on average has a much higher dividend yield relative to other ETFs in its category. But the same dynamic applies if we see high interest rates. Dividend ETFs will likely not provide strong returns, and investors will choose fixed income assets as their preferred source of income. But going back to the ETF combo, you're getting an average dividend yield of around 7%, which allows you to dollar cost average into any of these funds if and when they go on sale. Now, are there other alternatives to this combination? Well, yes, of course. SCHD could be replaced with other value ETFs like DGRO, which is one of my favorites, or DIVO would also be a great alternative to SCHD. But again, given SCHD's popularity and its very low expense ratio, it tends to be a go-to for dividend investors. Now, looking at JEPQ, one of the most prominent alternatives that many of you guys actually suggested was SPYI, which is the NEO's S&P 500 High Income ETF. And the primary reason many of you consider this ETF is because of its dividend yield, which has been staying consistent at 12%. A combination between SCHD and SPYI provides an average dividend yield closer to 8%. And you're getting exposure to big tech through the S&P 500. For those that don't know, SPYI holds stocks within the S&P 500 and sells covered calls against them. But there are several reasons why I personally wouldn't choose SPYI, and I will be making a separate video on this, but I am going to briefly go over it just so you guys can get a quick introduction of what's to come. For one, SPYI's total returns heavily lag behind JEPQ's, and there are two reasons for this. The Nasdaq 100 is more concentrated in big tech than the S&P 500, so JEPQ will naturally capture more upside. This is especially important if you're dealing with a lagging value ETF. Considering an SPYI and SCHD combination, the total returns would heavily lag behind the SCHD and JEPQ combination. But the second reason, and here's where I want you guys to pay very close attention, one thing you have to remember is that the S&P 500 carries less overall volatility relative to the Nasdaq 100. And because of this, a covered call strategy on the S&P 500 will naturally yield less premium income relative to a covered call strategy on the Nasdaq 100. It is always like this, and that is because there's a positive correlation between volatility and option income, and this relation is called Vega. But you may be asking, well, how come SPYI's dividend yield is so much higher? And this is where my problems with the fund begin. You see, in order for SPYI to provide such a high yield, the fund has to do two things: either dig into its NAV for distributions or use a larger chunk of its assets to sell calls. But the biggest issue here is that because of the lower amount of actual premium income SPYI is able to collect, the fund's ability to minimize volatility and drawdowns relative to the S&P 500 isn't that good. If we compare JEPQ's ability to minimize the downside of the QQQ relative to SPYI's ability to minimize the downside of the S&P 500, you will notice a very interesting result. Take the sell-off we just saw in December. Notice how closely correlated the total performance of SPYI is relative to the S&P 500. They are almost exactly the same, but with around a 0.9% better performance from SPYI. But now look at the percentage performance difference between JEPQ and the QQQ. Notice how much of a difference there is. It managed to capture less than half of the drawdown of the QQQ. In fact, it managed to outperform SPYI. And when you look at the overall drawdowns that we've experienced this past year, you will see that SPYI and the S&P 500 are almost neck and neck. And the only reason I think this is happening is because the fund at times isn't actually collecting that much premium income. Now, yes, there is a benefit to receiving return of capital, and that is favorable tax treatment. However, in my next video, I am going to break down the truth behind covered call strategies. And my team had a long discussion with a fund manager who actually explained how these strategies work on the inside when it comes to profit and loss and rolling over options. So if you're not subscribed yet, make sure that you are, because the next video is going to be amazing and full of information. And that is all for this one. Again, if you're not subscribed yet, make sure that you subscribe and hit that thumbs up button for the YouTube algorithm. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in my next one. Bye! This video is for educational and entertainment purposes only and is not financial, investment, tax, or legal advice. Discussions of ETFs, investing strategies, market updates, or specific funds are general, not tailored to your financial situation, and should not be relied upon for decision making. Investing involves significant risks, including total loss of principal, and past performance does not guarantee future results. I am not a registered financial advisor. My content reflects personal research and publicly available information. I may earn affiliate commissions from mentioned products or links disclosed per FTC guidelines, but these do not influence my opinions. Always consult a licensed financial professional and verify information independently. By watching this, you agree I am not liable for any losses or consequences from your actions. International viewers should consult local regulations.